Has John Stewart just become the most powerful Green Lantern of all time and even better than Hal Jordan? Spoiler alert, he just did. What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. All right, today's video, I'm going to be talking about Green Lantern War Journal #1, written by Philip Kennedy Johnson, with art by Montos and colors by Adriano Lucas. So when last we left off with John Stewart, a lot was going on with him as a character. So I'm gonna do what is effectively a pretty big info dump before we jump into, just the core meat of everything. One of the last times we left off with John Stewart was during the Geoffrey Thorne run on Green Lantern, and during that particular series, John had gotten a massive, and when I say massive, I mean massive, power boost. For the longest time, John Stewart had just been a stalwart Green Lantern wielder of the power ring, and for the most part, Hal Jordan was always considered the most powerful member of the Green Lantern Corps, just based on the level of willpower he always possessed. And while John Stewart was no slouch in that department either, often considered to be the closest thing to Hal's equal, maybe other than Kyle Rayner, the true idea here was that John was still just a man. But now, he has become more than that. During the Geoffrey Thorne run, John Stewart was attacked by a younger version of Darkseid that he encountered over the course of that series. And when blasted by Darkseid's Omega Beams, the Omega Beams didn't affect John Stewart the way they normally would. Normally, we would see a person affected by the Omega Beams either killed or transported throughout time. Looking at you, Final Crisis. John absorbed the energy from the Omega Beams, and it turned him into an ascended being. This has effectively turned John Stewart into a cosmic entity. He no longer requires a Green Lantern ring to create the willpower-based hard light constructs that we normally associate with a Green Lantern. He can now create these hard light constructs just based on his sheer willpower alone. Not to mention, he can absorb, just like he did with those Omega Beams, any other type of energy signature that he encounters, whether it's an attack or just an energy field that he happens to interact with. This effectively makes him invulnerable, and we know this because he was able to tank a shot, a sustained shot, mind you, from Darkseid's Soul Cannon, a weapon that is more than capable of killing even a new god. Not only can he absorb these energies, but he can also use them to further fuel his own power. Not that he even needs to do that anymore, because also during the Geoffrey Thorne run on Green Lantern, he also effectively absorbed the God Storm. This has now granted him a power source that is considered to be infinite. So infinite, in fact, not only will this fuel his power for all his years to come and very likely make him effectively immortal, it also means that he no longer has to eat, sleep, or drink, maybe even breathe if he doesn't want to. This is all a direct result of John Stewart's newfound and limitless power. This is due to the fact that he is tapped in to the source, the limitless power source and aspect of the presence that is ultimately responsible for the creation of all life in the DC Comics universe. His strength has also increased exponentially with this new power boost and has now put him on more of an even footing that he could go toe-to-toe with characters like Darkseid on a strength level. And for those that are curious, Darkseid is said to be as strong as a Kryptonian, so do with that information what you will. He's also proven that he can warp reality, because also during the Geoffrey Thorne run on Green Lantern, Oa was nearly completely destroyed and the central power battery was destroyed during that run, and John Stewart was able to warp reality and heal the destruction of Oa as if nothing had ever happened, and he restored the power battery, which for all intents and purposes means he single-handedly restored the Green Lantern Corps, because without the central power battery, the Green Lantern Corps does not exist. They would not have the power they need to fuel their lantern rings. Not only that, he also willed Hal Jordan's Green Lantern ring that was also destroyed, and effectively restored Hal Jordan back to Green Lantern status. This is of note because the only people who typically can create Green Lantern rings are the Guardians, and we've only really ever seen one other person, a normal human mind you, create a Green Lantern ring, and that was Hal Jordan. All of this actually puts John Stewart just more on even footing with Hal Jordan, and in a lot of cases makes him even better than Hal Jordan in a lot of respects. Hal Jordan was able to make his own Green Lantern ring before, during the early days of DC Rebirth. And it's really not that far out of the spectrum of possibility, considering that John Stewart is actually a Guardian, though he has had his memory wiped in the past that he ever had that level of power, but he has those memories back since he had Ganthet, a Guardian, wipe them away years ago. Right now, John Stewart has power on levels that he hasn't had since 1992 and 1993's Mosaic story arc. All that aside, the real question is, what is he doing here now? What's going on with John Stewart when we find him in this issue? Well, if you have not been keeping up, over on the Hal Jordan-led Green Lantern series proper, we have been seeing in some backup stories that John, especially over the course of the Green Lantern, the Emerald Knight one-shot, and even towards the end of the Jeffrey Thorne run, we saw that John Stewart was spending more time with his mother. And over the course of the recent Green Lantern series and the backup stories, we've seen that John Stewart's mother is not doing well. Like, she is in her twilight years, she is dying, she seems to be dealing with some form of Alzheimer's or dementia of some sort, and John is just trying to spend as much time with her as humanly possible before she inevitably dies. And it's very heartbreaking stuff when you think about it, just because, you know, we see various moments where it seems like she's very, keenly aware of all her surroundings. She knows everything that's going on around her. But then at the same time, she tends to forget that the daughter that she had, John's sister, who died back when John was a kid, she seems to forget that that child is dead. And John having to recreate his young sister Eleanor, it is something that he has had to do just to spare his mother the repeated grief of having to remind her that she lost a daughter. All the while, John Stewart is completely out of the Green Lantern game. He's not really doing superhero shenanigans. He's, as you might imagine, spending time with his mother. Over in another universe that is yet to be named, we see that there's an entity that is roaming the dark and vast regions of space and running roughshod across the universe, known as the Revenant Queen. Not much is really known about the Revenant Queen outside of the fact that she seems to have an obsession with John Stewart, and she has been revealed to have the power to wipe out entire universes, and also seems to possess some form of Lantern Ring power. While we don't really know exactly what this particular version is, it's not the Ultraviolet Core, it's not the Star Sapphires, it's not the Indigo Ring or anything of that nature, but it does in a lot of ways seem to mimic the Black Lantern Ring. We see at various points the Revenant Queen is able to raise all sorts of undead as she cuts a swath across the universe, having killed many of another universe's Green Lantern Corps, including Guy Gardner, leaving nothing but John Stewart and another Green Lantern of that universe, a character who was referred to as Shepard, someone who was partnered with the Guy Gardner of his respective universe. Stewart and Shepard were able to defeat the Revenant Queen in their universe and stop her from completely destroying everything, but now the John Stewart of that universe has sent Shepard over to Earth Prime to find our John Stewart and help him stop the Revenant Queen from destroying yet another universe. Because the only person who would have enough power to stand up to her would be someone who, just like the John Stewart of that other universe, is someone who is both a guardian and a builder. Now, we do know a little bit of the reason why she has a hard-on for John Stewart, and it's because, as she says in one of the backup stories in Green Lantern, is that he had slew her firstborn. We don't know exactly who this person was or how this pertains to the Prime universe. This character seems to be wholly connected to the universe that Shepard comes from. She seems to be wholly invested in taking down the John Stewart of the other universe, not so much this one, but she's going to destroy all John Stewarts and their universes across the multiverse just the same. So I don't think there's anything that our John Stewart did specifically that could have upset this version of the Revenant Queen, though if there was one thing that could probably connect all of this, would probably be the destruction of Zan-Shi. That is probably one of the biggest crimes that Green Lantern John Stewart has ever committed in his entire publication history, is the thing that has galvanized him and molded him ever since 1988's Cosmic Odyssey story arc. This was a moment in time where John Stewart had effectively blown off Martian Manhunter, trying to keep him from helping him save Zan-Shi from a bomb that was going to go off. John Stewart thinking that, oh, well, I'm a Green Lantern, I can handle this by myself, And when he got to where the bomb was coated in yellow. And back around this time frame, this was when the one weakness, the one true weakness of the Green Lantern ring was the color yellow. And that meant he couldn't do anything to it. And by the time he got there, it was too late. He couldn't stop the bomb from going off, and an entire planet was destroyed because of it. This was such a potent event in John's history that it almost drove him to himself. That said, there's a lot to like in the series. I'm really digging it so far, and while we haven't really seen much of John Stewart as far as his interactions with the Revenant Queen so far, outside of the alternate universe's version of John Stewart, I can't wait to see how it's all gonna play out, because the Revenant Queen is already there. Not only is the Revenant Queen already in the Earth Prime universe, but she has also brought her Radiant Dead along with her. The Radiant Dead being any and all life that she has snuffed out, being brought back as revenants themselves. And I'm kind of curious to see how John Stewart's going to deal with someone of this magnitude when he doesn't have the full might of the Green Lantern Corps behind him, because right now Hal Jordan is preoccupied with dealing with Sinestro shenanigans. Now, it's not to say that there aren't other Green Lanterns out there that could potentially help him, because Guy Gardner and Kyle Rayner are still out there somewhere, while everybody's kind of dealing with their own thing right now with the dissolution and then rebuilding of the Green Lantern Corps. Guy Gardner's out there just trying to do the best he can to rebuild the ranks, and well, Kyle is very likely doing something very similar. So it's not to say that John couldn't get a little help from his buddies and reunite the four corpsmen, get all of them, Hal, Guy, and Kyle, John, all of them together in one room, and then they could just take the Revenant Queen down. But yeah, it probably won't be that easy. I don't expect this to be like Blackest Night level shenanigans, but this is actually really reminiscent of Blackest Night in a lot of respects, just in the sense of how this new lantern ring works, because once again, it's not any of the other previous rings. This is something entirely new. Like, initially when I saw it, I thought it was a Star Sapphire ring, until I realized that Star Sapphire rings are a little bit different and they don't bring back the dead. Either way, there's a lot that John Stewart has to deal with, and right now he has the power to do it and very likely handle all of this on his own. John Stewart right now, as the Emerald Knight, is easily one of the most powerful beings in all of DC Comics right now. Very few characters can hold a candle to him right now when it comes to power levels. So really, when you think about it, he shouldn't need any help to take this threat out at all. But right now, I feel like even in the previous universe, the John Stewart of that realm, who also seemed to possess the exact same powers of the Earth Prime John Stewart, seems like even then he needed just a teensy-weensy bit of backup to take her down, and even then they weren't able to kill her, they just simply ran her away. So maybe John Stewart, maybe he does truly have the power to do it all solo dolo. Or maybe he might have to get a little help from his friends, but either way, Revenant Queen and her Radiant Dead, they're going to be a whole problem for him. That said, that's everything I want to talk about with Green Lantern War Journal #1. If you enjoyed this video, do the YouTube thing. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and make sure you tap that notification bell so that way you don't miss out on any of the videos that I put out. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, and until next time, let me know what you thought about Green Lantern War Journal #1. Keep it plus ultra. Sound off in the comments.